We're back with another coaching call episode, and I'm so excited about this one. We're going to be talking to Brooke Blake today, and I love Brooke. She's been a member of RTA. She's participated in some small group coaching that I've done inside of RTA, and she's absolutely amazing. Not only does she have a lot of great tips and tools and tricks that she's going to be sharing of her own inside of today's coaching call, particularly inside of our audit, but one of the things she's looking at in 2024 and her business goal for 2024 is to drive more traffic to her TPT store via her email list and also to increase her revenue. She left the classroom, and so she's doing TPT full time, and she wants to try to be bringing in half of her teaching salary or more in 2024. And so we're going to be talking about ways that she can do that both via email marketing and taking a look at her TPT store directly and looking for small things that she can do to increase her revenue. Super, super excited for you guys to listen in on this conversation. I'm telling you, one of the things that she shares in the audit as far as how she's creating mockups was a game changer for me. It was something I'd never thought of, was super, super simple. And it's definitely something, in fact, I got off the call with Brooke and I was like, okay, I need for you to come to RTA, and I would also like to hire you to do some stuff for me. So we're going to do an impromptu audit of one of her emails. You don't want to miss this conversation. Let's go ahead and let's meet Brooke. Hey, Brooke, how are you?
Hey, Lauren, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
Yes, I'm excited to be here.
Let's start with just telling everybody a little bit about your TPT journey so far, how long you've been selling, your niche, all of that good stuff. Tell everyone a little bit about you.
Okay, that feels like a little bit of a loaded / trick question because it feels like my journey has not been like I started here and here's where I am. It's been very up and down. So I actually had to go back to my dashboard to like really look at when did I even start my store? Like when did I post my first resource? So I have notes here. So I opened my store in 2015 of February. Which when I was looking at that, I was like, why? Like I was in college. So it wasn't like I was teaching yet or anything. And I posted my first product March of 2016. So a whole year later. I made my first 60 cents in March of 2016. And that is when I was student teaching. So that's when I started to really see a need for creating things that would help. I was blessed with a great mentor teacher who gave me the chance to really just like take the reins, and I jumped in right away, and she let me do a lot of full teaching, like pretty much right from the get-go. And I realized then that there was a lot of things that what they had for me, I mean, I had limited availability and access to things, of course, because I was a student teacher. So I had to create a lot of things on my own, and I wanted to, and I enjoyed it. So I posted several things in 2016, but as like a hobby, right? I had no idea what TPT was other than like, oh, I could make, some Starbucks money here and there. So that's fun. I probably did the like thumbnails that were just the picture of the product, like all of those things that I had no idea you didn't do, right? And then I like went dark until 2018. So I got my first teaching job and then posted some more things in 2018. I started to get a little more active on social media. That was before there was an algorithm that was hard to work with. And so then posted some things in 2018, made a little bit of money that was like, oh, here are some Starbucks runs for the month. That was really fun. And then went dark again until 2022. So I would say that 2022, if I'm being honest, is where I feel like I started to actually think through TPT as a business for the first time, and not just somewhere where I threw these products on. I had no idea about SEO. I had no idea about anything. And so I started to spend a little more time learning that and realized really quickly how just tweaking some little things made a massive difference. And so I would say since 2022, I have been consistently working on my store, working on growing my audience, and trying to shift my mindset that this is a business for me and not just an extra fun thing. So that's kind of my journey of TPT. It's a little messy, ups and downs.
But I think that's a lot of people's journey too, because, with teaching, and I was talking to somebody the other day, and I don't know when her podcast will air, but she had a very similar situation where it's like you start it and then life kind of gets messy, life kind of gets hectic, and you kind of put those things on the back burner when you're thinking about it as Starbucks money, because then it's optional money, But then when it starts to kind of take off and you get to that point where you're like, oh, wait a second, like this could actually be mortgage money. This could be whole income kind of money. Then that's when the game kind of changes and you realize this isn't optional. Like you can put it on the back burner, but you don't want to at that point, right?
Right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love
And
that.
I remember feeling like, especially in that 2018 time, I felt like my creativity had kind of, it wasn't that it had died out, but I thought that every single thing that I added to TPT had to be brand new, something that no one had ever seen before. And I'm learning that that's not the case, which I'm very thankful for. But also, I think that was intimidating for me. I felt like, well, I don't have the energy or the time to come up with these ideas that are never before seen. Or I'd think I had the idea and it was already out there, right? So once I kind of took that pressure off, I think that changed a lot of my mindset as well. So,
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. I
mhm.
love that. So let's talk about your goals for 2024. Of course, at the time that we're recording this, we're at the end of 2023. So as you're
Mhm.
looking ahead into next year and you're saying, this is what I want my business to look like in 2024 or by the end of 2024, what are some things that come to mind where you're like, this is what I want to accomplish in the coming year?
So this is the first year that I decided not to be in the classroom. So that puts a lot of pressure on, in an exciting way, some pressure on the goals that I have for myself for the next year. I would say I don't really expect to maybe duplicate, or what's the word?
Replicate.
replace
Yeah,
replace my
okay, replicate. Yeah.
replicate my teaching salary right away, but I would love to get to a point where it's about 50% or close to that, or more, to keep, just to be comfortable as far as revenue goes. And I know that a way to do that is to build my email list. And so that is my biggest goal, I think, or just my audience in general. My email list is growing, thanks to you. I took your class. I have been in some other courses. Like I felt like I've spent a lot of time learning email, and I'm working on growing that. And I would say with that, it also is just consistency, like in my whole brand and my whole business. That has been something I want to focus on as well. So growing email list, growing an audience, so that if I'm looking forward to 2025, actually, I would love to be able to be in a place where I feel comfortable starting a website and or blog where it's worth my energy and time. Right now, I don't feel like I have an audience quite large enough that I think it's worth spending all my time on that. I think there's other areas that are going to be a little more valuable right now to direct traffic somewhere else. So that's kind of my short and long term goals there. Audience, and of course just increasing revenue. So
I love that. I love that. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by just taking a look at your store first and just kind of these are not deep dive audits or anything like that. We're just going to take a look and see if there are any red flags, orange flags, things to look at. I like to always do that regardless of your goals. So even if you tell me like my goal is to grow my email list, traditionally you wouldn't necessarily think, well, let's go look at your TPT store. But what we do want to do is we want to make sure that if we're really focusing on growing the marketing side of our business, that we're marketing resources that once the buyer gets there, they're going to convert, right?
yes.
So then this is going to help with that primary goal of increasing your revenue in 2024 and getting to that stage where we're getting close to and or replacing your teaching salary.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to take a look at that together. This next segment where we're looking at your store. All right. Okay, so we're taking a look at Brooke's store today. We're going to be doing a quick audit on Brooke's store. So these audits are not what I would call like a deep dive audit or anything like that. This is a very fast audit where I'm looking for red flags. So an in-depth audit of someone's store would probably take me a good hour or so to go through, which isn't going to be beneficial for the vast majority of people watching a TPT store audit. So just a note that if you see something or like, oh, maybe this or maybe that, this is a very quick surface level audit where we're just looking for big things. And by the way, this audit is part of a coaching call. So if you want to view the entire coaching call, you can find the link to that video inside of the description where you can watch the coaching call as a whole and see all the advice that we're giving when it comes to growing your TPT business. Okay, first of all, your store is gorgeous. Like it's absolutely beautiful. And I told you before we even started recording this episode that there's not a lot that I'm going to be able to say here because it looks really good. And I would encourage anyone who obviously like definitely would discourage from copying any of Brooke's covers and previews and style, but anyone who's wanting to see some really good examples of what covers and previews look like, particularly with mockups, I think that she does a phenomenal job with that, right? These are all mockups, am I right?
They are, and that actually makes me so happy to hear because that's something new I'm trying. I'm sure as you scroll, you'll start to see there aren't as many in resources previous. So that's new. So yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
I love it. In fact, I literally, truly, if you're interested, if you're ever interested in doing some covers and previews for me, you just let me know. Like you just say the
Okay.
word, we can work something. But that was one of the things, one of the first things that I noticed is that your covers, your previews they're gorgeous. If I take a look at this, and this is one of the things that I'm looking for with a cover is obviously I'm looking for that value grab right here down at the bottom. And my tailwind is, little icon is covering that up. But this 10 unique pages included, that's that value grab that you're putting right there on the cover to highlight the value of your product inside of TPT search. You're using minimal text. Everything's big, bold. Your resources are really colorful and eye-catching. And this is something that I know a lot of us who do like product photography, which I don't do it, I hire it out, but it's expensive to hire that out. So I know that can be really daunting because a lot of times we feel like, oh my goodness, if I want my cover to look like this, I'm going to have to hire that out. And that's really kind of a daunting task. Or I'm going to have to learn how to be a photographer, right? And that's also daunting. So I think that this looks phenomenal. Did you by any chance, like, are you part of a membership for mockups or take a course or anything on that? Or did you just do this all yourself?
No, I did it myself. I think I got to a place where I felt like some of my resources aren't as colorful.
Yeah,
So actually, actually, if you were to download this, it's all black and white.
of course.
Because
Yeah.
that's just my style. I'm black and white. And so I realized that even with like even this here where you have the images, I started to feel like my whole store kind of looked like that, where it's still
Yeah.
just the white background, but I wanted to just try something a little bit different, see if it made any changes. I haven't had enough time to really look into the data and see, because I started to really change some covers probably in the last month or so. And I've done a combination. So some of these are mock-ups with just screenshots. Some of them, this one here, the cover of this Thanksgiving packet is actually a photo with my iPhone. But then for a lot of them, I scan my pages. So I answer the questions or, color or whatever. And then I scan them into images and then I place the images because I like to have my handwriting on things or my
I
coloring.
like
I think because not a lot of my resources lend themselves to like clip art and things like that. So it's hard to put the color in there unless I actually do it myself. So preferably I like to scan things and then put those screenshots in because that's really the easiest if I'm doing a color version. But sometimes I still can't always get that to look just quite like I want. So it's trial and error.
trial and
Lots of
error.
trial. Yeah.
I love that. I never thought of scanning printed, colored image and then putting that into a mock-up. Like maybe everybody does that. I have no clue, but that's a genius idea. Like I can scan, like I can do that, but like
Yeah.
the lighting for the photo and everything, it just never ends up right.
Absolutely. And I felt like so what I was doing for a while was fill out the activity and I would take a photo on a white background, just like straight up and down, trying to just get a very simple picture of it. But it would never be like, oh, the sizing just wasn't quite right, or I didn't get it right over the top, so it wasn't even. And I don't know, one day it just came to me. I was like, I should just scan this. Like, surely that looks better. And it has. And it's been nice because then I have them digitally saved as well in just one big PDF versus having to go dig out the actual resource from my files that I had, filled out a while back if I ever want to change it. So
I love that. And one of the reasons why I love having the mock-up or having handwriting on something, even if it's just a font that you've placed. Like, let's just say that, for example, somebody who's watching, doesn't want to print and scan it, like going into Canva or going into PowerPoint and placing like a handwriting type font into those boxes in different colors can go and using then, instead of maybe coloring these in, using the color version of the clip art for those mock-ups can really help to not only lend visual interest to the product, but it shows that product in action and it helps that teacher. It takes them a little bit further into the buying process where they're visualizing what this would look like for students to use that product, which is really, really helpful. So I love that. One note that I would make, and these are really going to be the only two notes that I have for you, is on your seasonal resources. This is not a blanket statement of this will work for everybody, but one of the things that I would try with some of your seasonal resources and see if it works for you is including grade levels inside of your title and inside of your snippet. So if you're finding that you're having a hard time competing for those competitive search terms like Thanksgiving activities, Thanksgiving writing activities, Thanksgiving grammar worksheets, like things like that, because I can probably guarantee that if I go to TPT and I type in Thanksgiving writing activity, and then I choose a grade level. So let's say I come down here, you're third through fifth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. click third. The number one search result has 2.1 thousand reviews. The last search result on the page has 112 reviews, which means that your product is going to have to sell quite a bit before you're ever able to rank for that broader search term. Now, if they start to include other things like, let's see, this was, so Thanksgiving activities, no prep. So let's say that Thanksgiving writing activity, no prep. And I've still got third selected. Let's see if we would show up for that and tell me if you see yourself. There it is, right?
There it is.
So that's great. But but they would have to select the grade level and type in Thanksgiving writing activity, no prep. It is a lot. One of the things though that I've found that people will do is they won't select it down there. They'll just type in third grade. And it's not like a shortcut, like, oh, this is always going to work for you or anything like that. But you can see the first search result now has 24 reviews. TPT search engine does not currently, at the date of this recording, count that keyword as a tag. Like, it's not selecting that as a tag. And so if I go down and do this, like you could be ranking for this as well. And the great thing about this is it allows you to do, like you can see this person did third, fourth, fifth grade. So I'm able to I would take commas out and I would take the ampersand out. So I'm able to, with just minimal keywords, like allow myself to rank for more. So I can Thanksgiving writing activity, third grade, Thanksgiving writing activity, fourth grade, Thanksgiving writing activity, fifth grade, only using 3 characters for those additional grades. It's
right. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Giving me another search term. I would say that this does not work across the board for like every single thing that you do, but I have found in particular for myself that this does work really well for me for seasonal items. So it's just something you could consider.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's funny that you say that because I haven't seen a lot of success with the grade levels in my evergreen resources, but I think that's because when it comes to grammar, let's say, which I have a lot of grammar resources, if you're typing in possessive pronouns, well, that's the title of my resource and you're teaching that in third, fourth, and fifth grade. So I don't think that people are typing the grade level as often. And so that's a good point with the seasonal. I mean, you type in Thanksgiving and you're going to get from K to 12 and then you're right. So that's great.
So one other thing that I'm going to tell you that's also nitpicky.
I like it.
But
That's what I
would
need.
be worth it on your product descriptions. Your product descriptions are quite long for something that's a really simple $3 product. I would consider trying to tame it down just a little bit. I wouldn't necessarily get rid of this, but I feel like this right here has all of the information about your product that your buyer needs to know in order to make an informed purchasing decision. So one of the things that I would do is I would come through here through these 3 large paragraphs. And I know you're probably thinking they're not that large. It's technically, this is 2 sentences, but it's 2 very long sentences. One of the things that I like to do with my product description is keep each paragraph at 2 to 3 lines and make them very, very skimmable. This allows the buyer to get down to the meat of what the product includes, those bullet points, a whole lot faster. So I would come in here and I would say, what do I need to pare out? What does my buyer not actually care about for a no prep packet? Right? So I've got to get into the buyer's frame of mind where I've created a no prep activity packet. What is important to them for no prep and what's not important to them for no prep. So talking about like this Thanksgiving activity pack is filled with creative writing activities, word puzzles, jokes, scramble, all that. You've already got them listed right here. Maybe even coming through here in my classroom, we use these Thanksgiving activities for early finishers. This is like not bad information at all, but I would just consider how can I format or tell them this information in a way that's going to allow them to actually read it and read it quickly. So I know for me personally, if I'm looking for something like, say, a curriculum, a larger purchase, something that I'm going to be using for an extended period of time, I'm more interested in actually reading all of that information. If I'm looking for something that's print and go, I want to know what it is very, very quickly. And if I come to something like this, I'm literally just going and trying to find this right here.
Okay. Yeah.
So we want to get them to that spot faster. And then
that saves me time to not
Yes.
write it all.
It's going to save you so much time. I do love the formatting. I love the use of emojis. I love the fact that you're bolding key pieces of information. I love all of that. I just would say pare it down. And I would say that across the board, because I looked at several of your resources and I'm noticing that that's kind of a theme. So we had this escape room. I think this is the one that I looked at earlier. We've got a very lengthy paragraph here. Break that up, figure out how can I get them the information faster. And then also you've got 2 very long bullet points. So that's not necessarily a bad thing to have 2 long bullet points, but just make sure that if we're telling them how easy it is, the instructions and the descriptions read as easy.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So paring down. And one of the things that you can do is don't necessarily think about paring down when you're first writing the description. Write it the way you want to write it, leave it and come back to it and say, okay, now what can I take out? I found if I try to write it the first time and try to like keep everything minimal and pared down, I end up leaving out really key pieces of information that the buyer might actually want to know before making that purchasing decision, because I'm so focused on keeping everything pared down and minimal. Whereas if I just say everything that I want to say, then I can come back and I can go, okay, well, that doesn't have to be there, that doesn't have to be there, and that doesn't have to be there. So that's one of the things that I would say, clean up your product descriptions just a little bit and maybe focus on, with those seasonal resources, using some broader keywords like 3rd grade, like putting those grade levels on there, and just see what happens when you do that and just test it. You may find that for some items it works really well. You may find for other items it doesn't work quite as well. But if I can pull things like fun or problem solving that probably nobody is going to type in when they're looking for a Halloween activity, and replace them with keywords that they might actually use, then I'm definitely going to be doing that. Okay.
Yep, that sounds great. That sounds great.
That's really it. Everything looks phenomenal.
Thank you.
Okay. So we took a look at Brooke's store and we noticed just a couple of small things in her store. Overall, your store looks phenomenal. It looks amazing.
Thank you.
A couple of pointers that I gave you when we were looking at your store audit that will help you with getting to that revenue was, one was a search engine optimization. And that is with your seasonal resources, making sure that you're utilizing keywords that are really going to help you get found. So instead of like fun, using the word fun, like fun solving or problem solving or things like that, utilizing keywords like grade levels. And we talked about how with seasonal items, it's a little bit different than evergreen items. A lot of times people are typing in a broad search term and then they're tacking on a specific grade level. So like Halloween escape room. And then they realize, oh my gosh, I've got like all of these. And if they're like me, it's easier for me to just type in 8th grade, right? Than it is to go down, find the grade, select the grade that I want. And when we do that, it really allows us to still fall into that broad search term, but then get found for that grade level. And that can be really, really helpful for those seasonal items. If you're listening, this is not like blanket advice for every store or for every situation. And we talked about this when we were looking at her audit, which again, you can view the whole thing on YouTube. This tactic does not transfer over to evergreen resources quite as well, but I have found that it works really well for seasonal items. Another thing is we talked about how phenomenal your mockups are, your covers, your previews, all of that. So I highly recommend that if you're listening, go check out that audit so you can see, or check out her store so you can see some really great examples of what that looks like. And then we talked about product descriptions, really going in, shortening those up and making sure that everything is super skimmable for the buyer. And other than that, other than those 2 things, your store looked great. So I would say 100% we're ready to be driving traffic, like loads of traffic to the store in 2024. So super excited about that. Talk to me about what you've done so far for email marketing, because you mentioned email marketing. You've started to grow that.
So I believe it was, let's say January, beginning of the year at some point, I decided, I had heard from several people that's the way to do it. So I was like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. I do enjoy writing. So the email part doesn't scare me quite as much as the marketing it and getting the people there. But so I jumped in there. I was part of Rebranded Teacher Academy at that time. And so I had gone through your marketing course, I had joined your coaching, and that was extremely helpful. Like you helped me get everything set up the way that I wanted it. And then I just jumped in and I've tried to be consistent. That's kind of been my goal. I've heard that's the thing to do, be consistent. And so I've been trying to do that. I've done some collaborations with some other sellers. I have done Facebook ads to drive traffic to my landing page, and I have it inside my products to try to get that organic traffic there as much as possible. And it's steadily grown, which I've been really thankful for. I will say, to be honest, the part that I'm struggling with the most with email marketing is getting the sale, that trying to find that balance of, serving my audience, which I do feel like I don't sell to them all the time. I try to give, ideas, or I give out free resources, all the things that I try to serve them with, but also trying to throw in some of the selling pieces as well. And as far as my dashboard shows on TPT, I'm not getting as much return on that as I thought that I would. And I don't know if that's the size of my audience. I would say my audience is about half of them are active, like very active, opening majority of the emails, clicking, things like that. But I have jumped past the hurdle of being upset about unsubscribes. So I feel like that's a win.
Yes.
And so just trying to continue to grow and serve my audience in a way that they trust me. I think that that's my biggest goal right now, is earning trust and them getting to know me. I try to invite that conversation into my emails a lot, and I don't get a lot back. And so I think that can be a little defeating, but I know people are busy, especially right now. I mean, the fall in the classroom is hard. And so I know that. And so I'm just trying to push through. But I would say that getting those sales, I feel like I've done a lot of learning about how to write those emails, when to send those emails. I feel like I've done the learning. It's now refining that and just being patient, I guess. So that's kind of where I'm at with email marketing.
Could you show me an example of a sales email that you've sent recently?
Sure.
Could you do that?
Yes.
And while you're pulling that up, I'll just say that, first of all, the UTM codes, I use them for everything. If I'm driving traffic to TPT, I'm using them for absolutely everything, but they're definitely not that accurate, right? But this month, in October, was the first month that I drove traffic only to my Shopify store. And that was the only place that traffic was coming from. Like, it was only coming from my email list. And it was a third of what I made for the month. And that was definitely not being represented in my UTM codes on TPT. Nowhere near a third. I would say probably in the neighborhood of maybe 15 to 20% on a good month. And I anticipated that it was probably around 20 to 25%, but definitely not like 33% of my income. A significant amount, I would say, is lost somehow or another. It's lost in that data. Like, it's just not representing accurately. So that is something to keep in mind.
So I've written all of my emails, just from my brain.
Yeah.
I have dabbled lately in the past couple of weeks in some chat GPT inspiration.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to show you those because I don't feel like they're completely me. Like I changed them to be me, but I still am it feels like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel the same. So I'm working on trying to figure out how to utilize that as a tool, but still be me. So if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to show you some. This is one from September. I try to send a more targeted sales email probably once, maybe twice a month. The other emails are maybe a mixture of a little bit of that and a little bit of an idea, or a little bit of that and a little bit of a freebie.
I'm going to read it out loud, and that way anybody who's listening via podcast, they can hear. So we've got in quotation marks, I'm done, I'm finished, now what? What am I supposed to do when I'm done? If I had $1 for every time I heard one of those statements, I'd probably own a vacation home on the coast of some beautiful beach in Europe. What about you? First name. Planning purposeful activities for my fast finishers just hasn't always been one of my strong suits. So this is where I would definitely insert a new line and break up this paragraph. I always have something for them to do, but it usually consists of reading a book or doing something without much purpose on their Chromebooks. When you already have so many activities to plan for whole groups, small group centers, homework, and everything else you have going on, it's easy to forget the importance of making busy work purposeful. I found that I really needed something that would be engaging for my students and not feel like just another thing. That's why implementing creative writing as a fast finisher activity has been a game changer for me and my students. I've got a beautiful photo of the product itself. Take a look at Finish the Story writing prompts for the entire year here. The beauty of creative writing is that my students get the opportunity to have topic choice and practice writing skills without the pressure of a formal writing assignment. Writing can be intimidating for many students. We throw so many things at them, like the writing process, 5-paragraph essays, structure, planning, graphic organizers, revising and editing checklist, typing final drafts. Okay, I can tell you right now, it's too long.
Is it too long?
We've got, like, for those who can't see the screen who's listening on podcast, I can see, like, I haven't finished this paragraph and I can see 4 more and I'm still not at the end of the email. So we're too long. I would say that this would be a phenomenal blog post, right? For somebody who's really looking for a little bit more information, that type of personality who's a high fact finder or a high fact seeker. Can't remember what Megan Wisdom calls it, but yeah. Okay. So you love writing, which is really evident. This is a good thing. Okay. I would start with this as a blog post and really pare it down. So here's the homework that I'm going to give to you. I'm going to say, take this, and instead of at the very beginning, instead of starting off with, are we done yet? Are we this yet? Are we that yet? Like, you can still do that, but then say, like, if you're getting these kind of questions on a daily basis, you're not alone. I got so tired of answering these questions that I had to make something for my students that was going to remedy this problem. And so I set out to create these resources. And then I want you to bullet point, not lengthy. We're talking about like 1 line per bullet. These X activities, like these specific activities, allowed my students to blank, 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 and allowed me to blank, blank, blank. If you want to try one of these resources over topics like this, give example topics, like 3 or 4 example topics and more. With those example topics, you're going to link to those specific example topics, and then you've got and more. Then for the next 2 days, I've got these 20% off. You can get them by clicking below, but only for the next 2 days. And you've got a button, and that's it. That's the end of the email. Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to follow up with them the next day. Just a quick reminder that these resources, the sale at 20% off sale, is going to end at this time, right? What happens is when we get something this long is I am going beyond trying to give them enough information to purchase the product. And what I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to lend credibility to myself. And I know that because you said this earlier, you said, I've just got to get them to trust me. I've got to build this relationship with them. I've got to get them to the place where they feel comfortable making a purchase from me, which is true to a degree. But if I can tell someone specifically, here's your need, this will meet your need, this will meet in this way, it'll meet your student's need in this way, and you can get it right now for this discount. That's going to get them to go ahead and make that leap. It gives them that short-term incentive. Like, if I don't get this right now, it sounds great, this would meet my need. If I don't make the jump now, I'm going to miss out on this discount. Once we've got them for that discount, then they've used the product, and then it's easier to make that next sale. Okay, this doesn't mean that we constantly, for every email, is a sale, right? It doesn't mean that you have to do that. But doing this on a fairly regular basis, especially when you're first starting out and you're just trying to get them to just purchase the product, just try the thing, it can be a really great incentive. And I found with this economy, the way that it is, people are just really not they're just really not interested in window shopping. They're really just not interested in purchasing something unless they have a really good reason to purchase it right now, or they need it immediately. So giving them that incentive to go ahead and make the leap at the end of that sales email can be really, really helpful. So I want you to try that and then tell me how it works.
And honestly, I'm not upset about that because, like I said about the product descriptions, that saves me time.
Yeah,
I think I feel this need to be like, I need you to know what's in the, like, I don't know. It's like this, I'm a type A controlling, like, Enneagram 1 person. So I'm like, here are all the facts, here are all the things. You need to have everything you need to know to make an informed decision. And you're right. That's just, I know that's not the case because that's not the case for me. When I shop on Amazon, I just add to cart. I mean, it doesn't take much, right? So I appreciate that. I don't typically have people look at my emails, right? Like, I can have friends of mine give me advice about products or my store or whatever it may be, but emails, like they're not on my email list. It's harder to kind of figure out what's wrong. And I do feel like I try to change it up I always feel like I'm trying something different with email, and maybe that's a problem too, because I'm not trying something enough to see if it works. I'm just kind of trying different, here's a different type of sales email. I've tried a different type of freebie this recently. I tried just different types to see what sticks. And so I think while that can be good, I'm not doing it enough maybe of the same thing to see what's working, because it does take time to build that.
So I would say, and I told somebody this the other day too, and I'll just repeat the advice because I feel like it's pretty solid. I would say send a series of 6 emails. 2 of them are going to be just really short, to the point sales emails, like what I said. 2 of them are just really, really short. 2 of them, make them a little bit longer, maybe tell them a little bit more of a story and give them a little bit more information about the product, and it be a little bit more of a soft sell, right? So this is.
And would you do that first? Would you do the soft sales first, or would you start with the shorter, harder sales? Okay.
Doesn't matter. Literally doesn't matter.
Okay.
Whatever order you want to do it in. But you can do 2 like informational with a little bit of a soft sale. Still don't make it this long. Still make it very short, right? Still keep it pretty short and to the point, but bulleted like information that they can use, tips, tools, valuable information that they can use with or without your product, and then a soft sell for your product, right? So we're going to do 2 of those. We're going to do 2 just straight up sales emails. And then we're going to do 2 that are just a little bit lengthier, still a sales email, but a little bit lengthier. Okay. And that should give you enough data to see which format are they responding to best. You're automatically going to either see one of the 2 types of sales emails, or in fact, probably both of the sales emails are going to do better than the soft sell, right? So the soft sell with the information, like that one's not going to do as well. That's okay. We still need to send those types of emails anyway. And they can be, because you asked, would that be a good prequel to say the sales email? A lot of times it can be a good prequel. It can also be a good follow-up to, I tried this hard sell. Usually my audience responds to it, so maybe they just need some more information. So it can be a good follow-up. But from those 3 types of emails, you're going to see which had the highest click rate, which had the highest conversion rate over on the other end, and which one. And I wouldn't do anything in there. I wouldn't ask them any questions. I wouldn't ask them to respond. I know there are times where we're really tempted. We're like, let's get this conversation going. Let's do this, like that kind of thing. I wouldn't include that in any of those 6 emails, because these are going to be the 3 standard formats that you're going to use over and over again to make a sale. And you're just kind of seeing which one do they prefer? Because I think a lot of times we think my audience is going to prefer the soft sell with the information, because I'm not really asking anything of them. I'm not asking them to spend money. I'm giving them the option to spend money, and I'm giving them valuable information. But I will tell you that my audience prefers the quick and dirty, straight to the point. Just tell me what I need and where to get it. Like they just prefer that. So if I know that they prefer that, it takes a lot of the burden off of me to try to give them fluff, and not fluff, because I obviously want to give them valuable information, but to try to like tell a story and make it personal and all that kind of stuff, because they're not interested in it. But if I see they are interested in it and they do want that, well, then I'm going to do it. You know what I mean?
Okay. How would you space those out, those emails? If you were doing
every week,
6.
Once a week,
every week.
Once a week.
Okay.
Well, how many people?
Okay, so
how many people are on your email list? Let me ask you that.
I have about 3,000.
Okay, yeah, 1 a week. 1 a week.
And okay, so I have a clarifying question then. When you say 6 sales emails, 1 a week, is this about a different product or the same product?
Either one. You could do 2 products, and you could do 1 product line. And I say product.
Okay.
But really, product line is best.
Okay. I get what you're saying now. Okay. I gotcha. So
yeah,
at first I thought you meant like selling the same product, like following up with them several times. I get what you're saying now.
No, that would be quite long to talk about just one.
That's why I was like, wow, I definitely don't do that.
You can do it. I mean, you can absolutely do it if you want to. Like I've definitely done that before for a product line, but I would say 3 all in a row of the same product line, then 3 all in a row of the next product line. And at the time that we're recording this, Cyber Monday sales are coming up. And so it is important to remember that to kind of plan accordingly with that, with Cyber Monday or with a TPT site-wide sale or something big, because I'm not sure when this will air, but I know we have another sale traditionally in February, and then we have another sale in May. So just working around those cyber sales or those big site-wide sales, and that way you're not breaking it up. So not like, okay, one email about this, then cyber, then this, and kind of planning those. If you're going to do like a short-term incentive, planning that around the sale. So it's not like, oh, she sent me this the week before the cyber sale, and then now I could save even more money than that short-term. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yes.
just kind of planning that accordingly. But yeah, I would do 3 in a row and then 3 in a row and just see how it goes.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you. That's really helpful.
Absolutely.
Here,
So tell me a little bit about how Facebook ads worked for you. How did that work? Did it go okay?
So, yes, I think so. I run them to the landing page. It seems like it does well. I will be honest, since email marketing is newer for me, I feel like I am still learning what is doing well and what isn't doing well. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Like if I get, let's just say I'm making this number up. Let's say I get 100 subscribers in a week. I really don't know if that's good or not. I think I'm still learning that for myself. I will say it's hard. The Facebook ads are a little bit harder for me to just swallow because I'm like hopeful that I get a return on that since it's costing me something. But I believe that it will. I believe that it does. I will say that I feel like I get more committed subscriber through collaborations and through other forms rather than Facebook ads. Sometimes I think the Facebook ads seems like they get the freebie and then they unsubscribe, which, that's okay. That's okay. I know that happens, but I think I'm still just learning it. And I currently have an ad running right now and it seems like it's going well. I know that also with Facebook ads, it's all about giving it time to adjust to the algorithm. And that's just hard to watch sometimes. So, I don't have a definitive answer for you on how it's going, but I think it's going well. I have noticed it depends on the resource that I'm giving away. I have one that I use consistently and that one does well. Sometimes when I try to throw in a newer like seasonal one or a different product line, I'm still kind of learning those. And that might also have to do with the welcome sequence that I have attached to this one, that it seems to do a little bit better.
Well, I would definitely say like once you start to see your existing audience convert, it gets to be a lot easier to swallow the cost. So for sure, like if you feel like, oh, I just don't feel comfortable, and maybe even, obviously you're doing it so you feel comfortable doing it, like you're a smart business person. But if someone's listening and they're like, I'm not sure I feel comfortable spending this money to grow my Facebook, if I'm not seeing the return on investment that I really am wanting to see with the email marketing, then I would say focus on getting that return on investment that you want to see before spending money to pull new leads in. It's going to make it a lot easier to swallow. But I would say definitely continue with the Facebook ads. I hear what you're saying on I've got a more engaged audience with the people that I've gained from collaborative events, which is one of the reasons why I love collaborative events, as you know. But then also one of the things to keep in mind is that every time you're participating in a collab event, all of those most active, engaged people who are on your list, all of those people are going to be the people who are joining somebody else's list because they're the people who are actually active and engaged on yours. So that is the trade-off there, is that once you start to get to a certain point and you start to grow to a certain point and to a certain size, that then it's like, ooh, but do I want to share these people, right? Like, do I actually want to share them? So that is something to consider. And that is that's one of the reasons why Facebook ads are such a great option for ongoing. But then, as you know, being a part of or coordinating a collab event is a lot of work, and the Facebook ads are easy. Like the Facebook ads are
they
run themselves. Yeah.
And if I don't look too closely, I forget the money's going away anyway.
Oh yeah. So, until you get that invoice at the end of the month and it's like, you just spent, $600 on Facebook ads and you're like, oh my goodness, that's a car payment,
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I love it. Okay. So I would say continue doing everything that you're doing, shorten up those sales emails, experiment with some of the things that we talked about. And I think you're going to start to send me a message and let me know once you've tried that. But I think that you're going to start to really see that ROI for that email marketing, but keep doing what you're doing. And do you have a blog?
I do not. So that's something I like. I have a goal for that in probably end of 2024, 2025. I think I'm intimidated by like start a website. Like that seems like
Yeah.
something I really would like to hire out and to like create, like put it together for me. And I don't know if I'm ready to invest in that yet. I did hear that you have started Shopify. That's
Yeah.
correct?
With the
And that
blog.
there's a blog
Yeah,
function on
believe it or not.
there.
Yeah, there's a blog function on
Yeah.
there. Yeah. Can't speak
So I'm
to how
thinking about
great it
it.
is, but I think it's doable. Like I am feeling more and more like it's doable. And I would say don't feel the pressure to start the blog, but all of those emails that you're writing before you go back in and prune, like as you're practicing that
Mhm.
pruning, save all of those drafts. Those are going to be your
Okay.
blogs. Like just do that. And then you've got the hard part done and you don't feel like, oh, I just spent all that time writing and then now I'm cutting half of it out, right? So just you can use this for blogs.
Yeah.
Well,
That sounds
thanks
great.
so much. I'm so excited to see how we'll have to do like a check-in, like an update.
I know.
in 2024. That'll be a fun one. But yeah, super excited to see what 2024 holds for you. And thanks so much for sharing about your business. Where can listeners find you if they want to connect with you?
So I am most active on Instagram, and that's even a little bit of a stretch, but Instagram at Blooming with Blake. I'm on Facebook as well, but I'm not the greatest at social. But I'm there.
I love it. I love it. We'll put those links down inside of the description. Thanks so much for being here, Brooke.
Yes, thank you. It was great being here. I appreciate all of your feedback. It's extremely helpful and valuable. So thank you so much.
Anytime.
Thanks so much for being here. If you want to learn more and connect with Brooke, you can find links inside of the description to her social media and also to her TPT store. So you can go find her, take a look for yourself, and connect with her personally. She's a phenomenal human being, and I know you're going to love her work. Thanks so much for being here, you guys. I'm going to see you right back here next week.